Welcome, everybody, to episode 36 of UnHacked. Guys, it is the beginning of January 2025. This is our first recording of 2025. Now, I don't know if it's laziness. I don't know if it's opportunity, but we've kind of been quiet for a few weeks. I think our last episode we recorded in November. Is that right? Have we been on the air since then? It's been a minute. So here we are. We're back better than ever, and we're kicking this year off with a commitment to bring on more guests. And God, I could not be more excited to have, and I'll slaughter your name, even though I practice, Evgeniy Kharam. Is it Kharam? So say your last name for me.
Evgeniy Kharam.
Kharam. Okay. I was close. I tried. All right, guys, we are going to talk about, well, first of all, a little introduction to UnHacked. It's a deliberate misnomer because, 97%, the vast majority of breaches can be prevented if you put basic security measures in place, follow the oh my God, I was going to say platforms. Frameworks. There we go. Follow the frameworks, whether it's CIS, NIST, HIPAA, PCI. And I'm bringing all these acronyms up on purpose right now because we're going to talk about a doctor. I read today, I read on Reddit, this doctor just like blowing a gasket because he had so many things he had to do in the world of cybersecurity. And he was basically saying, I'm not going to not do it, but good luck selling me on this stuff. So I want to break down that just kind of mindset of, we have to find this balance. And that really is the essence of our podcast, is finding the balance between every goddamn thing we're supposed to do as business owners and narrowing that down to what really matters. Where do we really spend our time? Where do we really spend our money so that we can outsmart the likes of Boris Grishenko, the arch nemesis of James Bond? That's what we're here to talk about. I am Justin Shelley, CEO of Phoenix IT Advisors. I work with businesses in the Dallas metro. We do some work in Utah. We do some work in Nevada, kind of all over the place at the moment. And I am here with my good friends and regular co-hosts, Mario and Bryan. Bryan, why don't you start first? And then Mario, tell us who you are, what you do, and who you do it for.
Excellent. Yeah. Bryan Lachapelle with B4 Networks, based out of Niagara Region, Ontario, Canada. And we help small businesses remove all the headaches and frustrations that come with dealing with technology.
Excellent. Mario?
Mario Zaki, CEO of Mastech IT. We're located in North Jersey, right outside of New York City. I've been in business for 20 years now, focusing on, construction, engineering, architects, anybody that has computers, we'll help them. We focus more on mid-sized companies offering white glove IT services.
All right. And guys, anybody who's listened to this podcast knows that Mario and Bryan and I have been friends for years. We've been doing this podcast for almost a year now, coming up on it. But today we have our special guest, Evgeniy, and I've got to tell you a little bit about him first and why he caught my eye and why we're here today. So this is really kind of lame, and I'm going to drop some names, but Evgeniy and I are both really good friends with Robert Herjavec. If you don't know who Robert Herjavec is, he's the one of the stars of Shark Tank. He was on Dancing with the Stars. The guy can dance. Who knew? He races cars, does all kinds of stuff, right? But I'm if you can't tell, I'm really lying about the fact that I'm friends with this guy. But I did one time meet him. Actually, I've met him 3 times. One time I met him at his office up in Canada, and there is a chance that Evgeniy and I have actually met because Evgeniy, you worked there 10 years ago, correct?
Time. No, I worked there 2.5 years ago, but I worked there for a long time. Yes, I was there 10 years ago.
You were there when I was there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Whether we met or not, I don't know.
16 years here.
Yeah. Okay. So, Evgeniy, tell me a little bit. The notes I've got, you're number one, you climbed the ladder there at the Herjavec Group. You're a father of 4. You have this wild ski/snowboarding party that I'm going to miss, unfortunately, this year, that I really hope you'll do again so I can come to, or something like it. You're a board member, I believe, or an advisor, and I might have wrote that down wrong, for the Canadian Cybersecurity Network. I want you to talk a little bit about that because I don't really know what that is. You've got a media cyber consulting service. You have 2 podcasts. You wrote a book. You've done a few things, right? So with that, tell me what would you like people to know about you and why it is that you're so amazing?
I could hire you as my PR agent. I think so. You're doing such a good job for myself.
Thank you.
So I'm a
We'll discuss
second-time
fees later.
immigrant. Yep, sounds good. I have a couple of shawarmas, beers. We can talk about this part.
Okay.
So I'm a second-time immigrant. I've been in Canada for almost 20 years. I did start my career in the Israeli Navy, and while majority of the people start their IT or cyber career in IT, I kind of started my cyber career doing QA for firewalls. So it was quite very interesting because I spent 2 years in Checkpoint. If people don't know Checkpoint, one of the still biggest firewall companies in the world that exists for a long, long time. So when I moved to Canada, under my impression, I was thinking that everybody know how to debug a firewall. So I'll come to a customer, we'll open a console, and we go to kernel, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? In 2 months, I realized how wrong I am, and it was okay because it was a big differentials in a very, very fast way in time. I could establish myself as a very technical person that know how to fix stuff. Later on, took me some time, but move up to ladder, become a team lead, group manager, and VP as well. And what I realized that it's quite important is doesn't matter how smart you are. If you cannot articulate your ideas in the language, and Justin, as you mentioned, we're here not to just throw acronyms in the language that the other person understands. And this could be business language, this could be simple language, this could be whatever language other person understands. And because English wasn't my first language, it was actually my third language. I'm a second-time immigrant. It took a while to figure out the best way to connect to people. And I think this is one of the most important parts that people are missing right now. I learned even more when I started the podcast because now you have video, you have audio, it's going to stay there forever and your mom going to watch this. So you better know what you're doing and how you communicate there as well. And all these small pieces, this is what make us a better human being, a better professional. So it's like Brian, Mario, Justin, you saying you guys help small businesses. But if you come there all like, oh, I can do TCP IP, I know so many frameworks, and I understand SSL, people like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you want from me. I have 5 laptops, 10 people, and I need to understand how to just do my work.
Right.
So you need to go to understand their pain point, understand how to take this pain away. And guess what? It doesn't matter if it's a 5 people shop or it's a 50,000 people shop. They have the same pains. Depend who you're talking to. If you're talking to a CISO, VP, SVP, they don't care about nuts and bolts. Same as the guy as a dentist. They care about business.
Yep.
They care about how we stay profitable, how we stay online. So the problem that the doctor has with 5 people and the CISO with 50,000 people, same problem. Take my pain away, just a bit different pain.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I mean, I've got to go back. So I've got this Reddit quote that I'm going to read in here in just a second, but this really was driven home to me. God, almost probably about the time you and I allegedly met up in Canada. I met with a doctor, small office, and we were talking about cybersecurity. We were talking about HIPAA compliance, and this guy looked me square in the eyes and he's like, "I don't care." He's like, "I'm too small. They're not coming after me." Like, well, that may or may not be true. But clearly I was not speaking his language, right? To your point, I was speaking my language. I knew it was important. I knew why it was important. And I either failed to communicate it or maybe he legitimately wasn't interested, which, some of us are bigger risk takers than others, right? But so that is what we're going to talk about today. And not, again, one of the other things that kind of caught my attention, Evgeniy, on, when I was reading about your background and what you do is that ability to communicate technical stuff to non-technical people. And I think that is probably one of our greatest challenges in this industry. We speak different languages. So again, today we're going to talk about a disgruntled doctor, his real and understandable problems, and then perhaps this bigger problem of mindset. And we've talked about mindset before. We're going to dive into it again today. And then, as always, we're going to wrap this thing up with a formula to protect our businesses. So let me just go ahead and read this. I'm going to read this entire quote, and then we're going to take some bullet points, and we're just going to break this down. And quick background, This was not on a technical thread where I read this. It was actually on, I think, Small Business or Entrepreneur or something like that. And this kid had just gone out and taken a cybersecurity course or whatever, fancied himself the latest, greatest cybersecurity expert, which is another problem with our industry. You can do that. And he did, and he gets on there and he's like, hey guys, I've got this new skill. How do I sell it? And here's what this doctor said. He says, I have a small medical office. You come to me, and all I'm going to hear is that there's another problem I now have to deal with. If you do that, you need to come with some really good data to prove I need to deal with this problem right now. Not 3,264,512 businesses got hacked. I don't give a damn about them. You need to have actual my business issues. Why all the systems I'm already paying for, HIPAA and PCI compliance or whatever the damn acronym was that my credit card processing company needed me to do, aren't good enough, and a reasonable price I can pay to make it happen. Also, for the most part, it has to be hands off for me, and I'm not paying for a subscription. This better be fixed, have a good life solution, or something damn close to it. When you talk to me, you have to keep in mind, I just spent 6 hours seeing patients, 1 hour fighting out what the hell my billing people are doing, that we're getting denied claims, 3 hours fighting with insurance companies or sitting on hold with them, 2 hours talking my clinicians through complex cases that they need to deal with, 4 hours doing all the other back office stuff, and I have 2 to 3 hours of work to do before I can go home and go to sleep. Now, I did a little bit of math, and he might be working some really long days there. I don't have the time or energy for you and your problems you're bringing me. Doesn't mean I won't do it, but it's going to be a hell of a hard sell. All right. Now, aside from the fact that I slaughtered the reading of this poor guy's comments, I wish I could have heard him say this out loud, because I think the emotion would have been much better. Let's get into this and let's talk about how do we help somebody like this. And I want your guys' take on it, because here's my take. I think A, these are legitimate concerns, and B, they're going to sink him. Thoughts?
Can I start?
Yeah.
Please.
So definitely the guy is frustrated. Definitely there is no way to show him the benefit without let him take all the pressure out. What I think people don't understand in this case is that they're no longer working in the dark. They're no longer working without computers. Their billing system done on computers. His freaking X-ray is done on a computer. His schedule done on a computer. Probably majority of the staff are connected in his office. So
Right.
if this doctor will listen, and I'll oppose like, hey, give me like 5 minutes to explain what's happening, and then tell me if it makes sense or not. Because in the end of the day, you mentioned that you want to work. You just want to work. So what if your X-ray doesn't work? What if your scheduling system doesn't work right now? Will this impact your ability to make money? And from there, if you stop and think about that, then there's opportunity to explain, okay, this is why we need a simple, or like the simplest protection or the basic protection you can have for your devices, hygiene for your laptops, understanding what's connected, what do you have, even what do you have on your system, who is using your Wi-Fi to make sure you can do your work. This is how I will approach this, to understand his pain, understand how he makes money, and what will prevent him to make money.
No, that's actually a really good point. You've got enough problems. You've got enough work on your plate. The last thing we need to do is make it worse, right? Complicate it because stuff is not working right. Okay, Mario, Bryan, thoughts?
I mean, to me, when I read this the first time and when you read it again, it seems to me like he's getting multiple people coming up and trying to sell him something,
Right.
and he's sick of it, and he doesn't understand why he needs to do this. Sometimes when we're meeting with prospects and stuff like that, what we do and what you guys, we actually offer it all the time, is a network assessment. We could come in there and show them what is wrong and what we can do to fix it. And I don't know if this guy ever let somebody do this, or if anybody ever offered to do something like this. Sometimes, with somebody like this, and he's like, show me what the problem is with my business,
Right.
and he needs somebody to come in there and say, well, you know what? Your server is running server 2012. This is why it's a problem. This is, your front computer has administrative privileges. This is why a problem, it could be a problem. I think he needs somebody to show him the problems and not just, you need to sell on the problem, not just
Mario,
sell a
if I may
solution.
interrupt, but it's working. Why do I care? It's 2012. It's working. It worked for the last 10 years. It never went down. Maybe one time when there was a power down. Why do I care?
Because when it does go down or when there is a problem, you may not be able to come back from it. That's what we sell is we sell, so it doesn't happen. And in case it does happen, you can recover, you know, yes, to some people that makes sense. To some people it's like, well, I'll deal with it when it happens.
Do you think it is like you need to pinpoint the crown jewels back to impacting the business? Like proactively, the same as people, if it's a dentist, for example, I don't know if it's dentist, people proactively come to you and tell you, we're not just doing blood tests when when we're ready to die, excuse me, we're doing blood tests every year, every 2 years, because we want to proactively understand and not get to this point. So actually, this is an interesting point because we can come back to doctors and what they do and how they treat patients to say we're doing the same. As you mentioned, we'll do an assessment periodically.
Yeah, no, exactly. And even with a dentist, you can say, well, why am I going to come to you every 6 months for cleaning and this and that? Why can't I just come to you when I'm having pain? That's exactly a very good point. It's a different industry, but very similar proactiveness.
Yeah, that's the approach I try to use. I always try to bring it back to whatever it is that their business does. So in this particular case, they're a medical practice, right? I'm sure, depending on the type of medical practice, maybe it could be a dentist. I don't know. It says a medical practice, so let's assume it's just a regular general practitioner. I would say, if you were talking to a patient who was having health issues and you knew that they were related to perhaps being overweight or perhaps not having enough exercise, you would let them know, like, hey, listen, you probably should have a regular exercise regime. You should eat better, right? You need to do these things on a regular basis in order to make sure you don't have problems down the road. You could ignore them and you might have no problems for years, and all of a sudden you end up with some sort of disease that you can't get rid of. But you could have done that proactively. You could have prevented it from happening in the first place. It's kind of the same when it comes to IT. There's a lot of things that have to be done on a regular, proactive, preventative basis to make sure that you don't end up in a problem that you can't extract yourself from. And that's the approach I usually take when I'm talking to somebody who doesn't necessarily understand the tech side. But bringing it back from another angle, I also say, like, listen, initially there might be a lot of work to do, but once we get into a regular regime, it's going to be very minimal and it's going to be relatively reasonable for us to be able to do this on a cost basis. And my job as an IT provider isn't just securing you, it's also looking for ways that we can make you more efficient and be better able to work in your medical practice in a way that saves you time. So if I'm doing my job correctly, by the time that we're done working, or not done working together, by the time that you've worked with me for, let's say, half a year, you're finding efficiencies in your business that I'm paying for myself, and on top of taking care of the security thing. So we're finding ways of making sure that you're able to get your appointments out faster, or your patients paid faster, whatever it looks like. Different businesses have different things that we can do for them that will improve their operations. That's what I'm looking for as well, to offset our cost.
Yeah. So one of the things I picked up on here is there is a language barrier, right? When he's like HIPAA and PCI or whatever it was my credit card processing company told me I had to do. Why isn't it good enough? So clearly there's a lack of understanding. And Evgeniy, that goes back to your, what we talked about before is this, communicating our world into the language of somebody else who just doesn't understand. And clearly this guy's frustrated. He does not understand why he's writing another check. Why he's spending more time. Because this is going to involve guys. Let's just talk about how we do our sales cycle, right? How many meetings, how much time is involved with a business owner when they decide that they want or need to make a change to their IT world? Like, it isn't just click a button and sign up and you're good to go. We're talking about hours. We've got discovery. We've got technical audits. We've got planning sessions. It is a significant time commitment. And, and I don't remember who said it, but it seems like this guy has been called upon multiple times with multiple sales pitches of everybody telling him, I can go in, I can find a problem, and now you have to fix it and pay me to do it. Right. So what can we do? And I'm kind of, this is a little bit of introspection for me, but how can we make this world easier? Because this is great information for us where they may not understand our world. We now have, the reason I grabbed this thing off of Reddit is because now I have a window into the life of my client. They're frustrated, they're overworked, probably underpaid for what they're doing. How do we simplify this process? How do we change it? How do we make it more beneficial to them? Do you guys have any thoughts on that one? The room goes quiet.
Yeah, it's hard because we're not fully there. We're still duct taping cybersecurity. We're still duct taping IT. Not even cybersecurity. We're duct taping IT.
Right.
What's the point for me to sell you a fancy antivirus, WAF protection when your servers, as Mario mentioned, are long, need to be refreshed. So we need to first understand. And unfortunately, people only understand when it's happened to them, not even happened to somebody else.
Right.
So awareness, yes. If it's a small, medium business, unfortunately, I think it has to come from the top. So it's the same as people in accounting, people in with doctors. They have their own conferences where they need to go to get the CPE credits, whatever it calls them, for the doctors. And they explain them about HR hiring and about different things they need to do. And why are we doing fire alarms testing every month, every quarter? Nobody complain about them. It's a necessary evil. So it has to come from there. And I think it also has to come from the patients. Like the most important part that I think people need to understand is you're my doctor. You have my records. You know my information that if it goes to the bad guys, probably already have them. I just don't know about it. They can potentially find a way to get to me. So why do I need to hack Robert Herjavec, for example? Okay, if I can just find his records in a doctor and get it through there, for example. And this is what the doctor need to understand. We're talking about privacy. We're talking about data that I'm supposed to protect legally because HIPAA tells them you have to protect it legally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one thing too, we've, through Robin's community, we've heard them say several times, an undisturbed prospect will never buy. So if he doesn't see that there's an issue, it makes it a lot harder. Like we've sat with prospects all the time and they're complaining they either got hacked, they lost money, or their IT person doesn't, pick up the phone or doesn't call them or doesn't do anything. It's for us, we have to kind of show them what is, before it happens, what, this is stuff. And it's hard because, you can sit with 5 different IT people and you're going to get 5 different stacks, security stacks, 5 different prices, way all over the place. There's no regulation, and we've said it before. There's no standard. All right, you need this, you need this, you need this. But you can argue with somebody else and say, oh no, you don't need that. You can just use this. So that's the problem. It for them, it's frustrating because they don't know, a standard. Like they don't know it's. It's not like buying a car. Well, you're going to get 4 wheels, you're going to get an engine, you're going to get, if you're looking at the exact same models and you're going to different dealerships, you're getting the exact same vehicle. The price is going to be close, maybe different. But the problem is with the IT industry is, you can go to somebody and they're charging $40 a month, for a user, and then you can go to the next person, they're charging $300 per user. So that's the problem. That's the frustration, is that we don't have like a standardized, and we've talked about it before, like a standardized practice or regulation that, everybody needs to follow.
One thing I do love, though, is that we're moving towards a model where we do have that with the CIS standards, for example, where we have these frameworks, and whether it's CIS, and we're going to use some of these acronyms, but you've got especially where today we're talking about a doctor's office, but they in particular are dealing with HIPAA and they're dealing with PCI compliance. those two do have a lot of overlap. So one thing we could do to help this particular doctor or business owners in general is to show them where all of the things that they are required to do can largely be handled in one fell swoop if done properly. Would you guys agree with that?
I mean, yes and no. I think this is the biggest problem that we're facing in this industry is that a lot of IT providers coming in and going, here's all the 100 things you need to do in order to become compliant or be secure. When really we should be going in and saying, hey, listen, I understand that this is complex and this is overwhelming. Why don't we treat this as a journey? Why don't we treat this as something that is not ever going to be finished because it's not something that can be finished. We're going to just implement a few things here today and a little bit more tomorrow and a little bit more the day after. And every month we're going to come back, or every quarter we're going to come back with a couple of little extra things that we can do to improve bit by bit. And if we treat it as a journey, you're never going to be finished because cybersecurity doesn't change, doesn't stay static. Criminals aren't saying, oh, they put a firewall up. Darn,
damn it,
I'm stopped. I got to find a new career.
Boarded right? Again.
They're going to find another way, and it's going to bypass things that we've put in place. And so cybersecurity isn't static. It's always going to change. And if we treat dealing with a client and say, listen, yeah, you want a one and done, but that's just not possible. But let's work on this together over time in little increments versus this big giant project that's going to take, 15, 20, 30 days, and it's going to cost you a super fortune, right? That's my take on it.
I think the other part people understand very, very slowly. What does the doctor says? Take it away from me. I don't want to deal with this. Right. So basically, he wants a managed service provider. He wants an MSSP or an MSP that help him. Somebody that will take the problems away. He probably paying support or insurance for his water cooler. Or whatever it is he has there. He doesn't really go and fix it himself. If something happens with his water cooler, he calls somebody comes and replaces the water cooler. Not a difference in this case as well. This would probably happening with others, his medical machines that he has, whatever the devices he has there, somebody coming and replacing them. So this is the mentality they need to understand. Okay, let's understand the scope. The problem is when somebody call him every month with a different problem, with a different price, they don't know what is the fair price to pay to do this. He mentioned he doesn't want subscription. Bullshit. Sorry. He pays subscription for Microsoft, for Google, or for his cable, for his phone. If you think they're going to be different, why? Then you will buy a magic wand, but this magic wand, you will need new batteries in 6 months. So if he doesn't have subscription, people will come and sell him new magic wand that will cost the same or cost twice. So until people don't understand this part or will not want to open up and they're frustrated, and it will need to be happen. Yes, part of our industry is that we all going with gun blazing and say, oh my God, hackers come to hack you. They don't understand what does it mean. Well, they need to understand that there's the basic information they need to do, passwords, patching, hardware that's up to date.
No, but you're right. It is. And the thing is, honestly, we live in a world of subscriptions. I mean, even I read an article a few months ago that even car dealership now are starting to do or they want to start doing subscriptions for like heated seats. Heated seats, and I believe with BMW
thanks.
They wanted to start doing heated seats as a subscription. You pay, a couple $100 a year, and you activate your heated seats. I mean, Tesla right now. Tesla, I believe, does a lot of subscription stuff.
But it's all still driving related. Yeah, like the autopilot. I can understand why my autopilot is subscription because I need data. Heated seat doesn't really change. It doesn't adjust to the way I sit. I prefer subscription if somebody can just take my car, bring me a new car, and do a service. And if I have an issue with the car, just give me a new car and let me continue making money. Yes, definitely wants this as part of my leasing.
Yep. I'm a big fan of, and especially when talking with doctors, it would probably go a long ways. I'm a big fan of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And so what this particular doctor sounds he was looking for is a cure when what he really needs is an ounce of prevention, right? Like he's looking for somebody to come in and just be able to swoop in and fix everything when really he just needs somebody to come in and help on an ongoing basis to make sure that he doesn't have to fix anything to begin with.
So Justin mentioned about what's the, I think actually Brian, you mentioned about what's the minimum. So what's the minimum things doctors or small businesses need to have without going nuts? Like what's the 80-20 rules?
If I had to say what the major things that a doctor would have to have in place, it'd probably be a handful of things. One, obviously, just having endpoint security, some basic updates and maintenance to the applications to make sure that they are always being protected against the latest security flaws found in the software that they're using. Those two things will go a long way. And then lastly, from my perspective, from in doctors' offices, I find a lot of doctors have unprotected computers in rooms where patients are alone. And so just securing the actual desktop in a locked cabinet so that patients can't just plug a USB key into a computer and then gain access or inject any kind of malware. So locking that computer up.
I'll piggyback on yours. Asset
Sure.
management, so inventory.
Yep.
At least basic understanding what is the devices you should have in your, this could be computers, this could be medical devices, connected devices, this could be software that I need to know. And also related to a bit of IT maintenance, like if I have a software, I have a computer, what's my maintenance? What do I need to replace it? When do I need to pay for the subscription or the renewal for whatever it is? And also, as you mentioned, if I have computers unprotected, I may have network ports that also unprotected in the rooms as well. So this is some of the basic stuff. Definitely some basic password hygiene to understand how we save passwords, not just on sticky notes. Can we have a way to have some kind of password management?
And one thing I want to add to that too is employee education. You always have to have your employees kind of have like some sort of education, what to do, what not to do. I mean, I was at a doctor's office a few weeks ago with my daughter, and it wasn't the nurse, it was just like a technician that was helping her. It was an eye doctor's office, and she said, okay, we just put some drops in your ear, we'll be back in 20 minutes. And she left, walked out, left the computer completely unlocked, different records and stuff like that was open. And I'm just sitting there and looking, I'm like, I've been to doctors' offices where the computer automatically locks after a minute or two, or B, the employee themselves, when they're getting ready to walk away, they're hitting a couple quick keys, like Windows key L locks the computer. But they left us in the room for 20 minutes with the computer unlocked. I could have, obviously I didn't, but I could have easily went through and checked stuff like that. And I actually was sitting pretty close, and I just kind of peeked over just, for the sake of peeking. And I saw, I'm like, oh yeah, they have an antivirus, they have this. So it looks like there's an RMM installed on there. They already had everything down there. But if I was somebody that, wanted to do something malicious, I could have easily done it.
I piggyback on this. This is a very cool topic. So we just talked about RMM. Okay, for people that don't know what's RMM, it's basically a remote way to help you with your device, to simplify the idea. And there was unfortunately a recent hack with a company, I forgot the name of the company, through the vendor. That vendor had malicious software, and they were able to get to the company through the vendor. We're not going to name names of the vendors, but my question here: what kind of questions an SMB need to ask the provider to make sure they don't bring more problems to the environment because the provider is not kind of securing themselves well? Because if I can hack your system somehow and get to the RMM, I now have access to all the information. And I think we need to explain to businesses what kind of questions they want to ask the providers before they sign a check with them, to understand they're actually going to do a good job for them, and they themselves have a good hygiene as well.
Actually, was it
Great
3
question.
podcasts ago, we actually had a guest with us that was actually another MSP that did have that happen to them. So we what was it, like 2 episodes, guys?
It was last month, yeah.
Yeah. And I have actually lost a prospect that I actually sat with, and one of their guys like, listen, they come with their own problems. They can, we're worried about us getting hacked. They have a higher chance of getting hacked. But that is a good point. That what are some things that they can do to be protected by working with an MSP?
I'll ask, what is your processes? Show me your processes internally. What do you do? How do you train new employees? How do you give them access to my environment? What do you do with my data?
Yeah. I mean, with us, we take, and it's not, nothing's foolproof. We will obviously we won't set up anybody unless the 2FA is set up automatically. We have IP whitelisting, so only, only people in our office can access our RMM tools. Like, even if you're working from home or something like that, you have to have a VPN connection into our system, work off a system in here, obviously have two-factor authentication for VPN, two-factor authentication for software and the computers. So, I mean, and it happens. And believe it or not, there are some prospects that actually do ask those questions.
I think so. Evgeniy, there was I love Reddit, by the way, but there was in the MSP subreddit, there was an MSP owner who had been in the industry for, I think he said 20 years, and a client had asked him, it's not exactly what you're asking, but basically, what are your best practices that you hold me to? It's not your process, which is what you said, but what's your framework is more what the question was posed. And the owner of this MSP gets on Reddit and he's like, I don't know. I don't know what my standards are. What are these best practices we always talk about? Let's discuss. And it just further illustrates, like, if we don't understand it ourselves, how in the hell does the owner of a business know how to vet us? How do they know that we know what we're doing and that we're doing the right things when it's so highly unregulated? For me personally, that still comes back to standards, and it can be CIS or NIST or whatever, but it can also just be, if I can print off and show you, these are the standards we hold ourselves to, and these are the standards we're going to hold you to, and these are the standards we're going to hold all of our clients to. That at least shows some level of confidence in the service that they're selling. Does that kind of answer your question, or is there still a better way to approach what you're asking?
I think it answered the question. I think it's also some examples to explain to customers what people do. And it's more to basically give them trust and explain to them that, by the way, we're eating our own dog food as well. We're not just watching your ideas. We're doing the same, because it's important for us to make sure your data is secure, our data is secure.
Yeah, 100%. And this is, I've said before, I will continue to say, the number one reason that I insist on doing these podcasts is so that I stay sharp, so that I stay up on, what's the latest and greatest, what's the next thing we have to do, what's the biggest threat today, what's the biggest threat going to be tomorrow. On that note, guys, we've talked about AI a lot. What we haven't talked about is quantum computing. That's the next thing on the horizon that's going to break all the encryption out there. So, Jesus, this is not something. One thing that I heard Robert Herjavec say when I was up there, and this was when Internet of Things was just kind of on the horizon, and he was up there. I'm kind of scared because I'm like, God damn it, there's one more thing that we have to pay attention to. And he's got this big old grin on his face. He's like, there's no end to this. This just gets the problem. These are my words, not his, but basically this problem of cybersecurity just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, which means more business for me. I heard that and it kind of tweaked me a little bit. It's true, but it's also terrifying and is problematic for our clients. But this is the game we're playing, right?
Let's think about that, and we'll maybe be a bit geeky right now.
Yeah.
We invent stuff because it's cool and for convenient.
Yes.
If we look on internet protocols, a bit geeky, not very geeky, but SMTP, the email protocol, there is nothing secure in the protocol by definition.
Right.
And it's been around for a very, very long time. Probably 30 years right now, maybe 40 years, I don't remember. we then started to put security on top of the protocol. Browsing, HTTP, same. Nobody was thinking about security. DNS, same. And many, even the basic protocols to connect to equipment, that like Telnet, for example, by definition, wasn't secure at all. And also was plain text. Plain text for people that are listening is basically, if I can capture the data somehow, I can understand and see all your passwords. We don't use it anymore. And this is happening with majority of the cases. We come up with AI, and then very quickly we figure out what's the issues and the problems that people can do with AI. So we don't really think about security first when we're doing conventions.
Right.
We're thinking about how great it is and how it's making our life easier. And then we figure out that somebody else can use it for malicious ideas. And now we try to figure out how to secure it. I think there's definitely more awareness right now with new things. But it's still the case. People are going to invent something cool and then figure out how to secure it.
It's an afterthought a lot of times. Kind of reminds me of the rush to work from home, right? Everybody sent their employees home and they're like, oh shit, how do we secure this mess? A lot of breaches happened.
I mean, is there a reason why we need to have, your refrigerator and your toaster to be, out on the open internet? It's cool. I want a smart toaster, or there's a smart oven that I'm looking to buy because I want to be able to cook something from when I'm home, but it keeps you vulnerable. You don't know what's sitting there, what's on their back end connecting to theirs that gives them a red carpet right into your home or your office.
Yeah. All right, guys, before we dive too much into geek speak, and we're coming up on, we need to wrap this up anyways, because our famous guest has other places to be today. I wanted, Evgeniy, if you would, one of the things that, like I've already said, the fear of overcoming public speaking is one of the things that caught my attention in your profile. Tell me a little, is that something that you can just give us like a 5-minute synopsis of?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And I think it's cool. So before we go to fear, you mentioned 5 minutes. One of the other issues in the industry is that people cannot communicate and cannot have their idea in a very small chunks. So can you explain what your business done in 2 minutes? Can you explain what my problem in 2 minutes? Don't tell me stories about the grandpa and what he did 5 years ago and how we got here. Can you just be concise and to the point? So we'll try. Okay. So public speaking, it's actually the second fear after death.
Correct.
If you don't know, look at statistics, not mine. Now, what's the problem? In many cases, the problem is there's anxiety that I'm saying something. People think I'm stupid. People think I'm not intelligent. I will forget what I need to say. Many different things that if everybody will reflect on themselves, I don't need to explain. They will understand. Now, what's an interesting part? What's the difference between fear and excitement? If you think about that, fear, I don't know the outcome. Excitement, I know the outcome. Roller coaster. We're scared and we're excited at the same time. We know we're probably not going to die, but we're still scared. But it's so close to each other. If everybody, for people that have kids, first time you want to tell the kid to go on a slide, they're afraid. The moment they go, that's it. They're going to go there like 8 hours nonstop. Now they understand the outcome. Why I'm talking about that? Because when you approach to public speaking, you have a fear, but at the same time, probably a bit of excited. And if you can translate kind of a mind model that you can change the fear to excitement, it's going to be much different. And Justin, you mentioned you spoke before, and I know Mario, Bryan, you probably as well. When you talk to one person, it's 1, 2, 3. The more people you're talking to, the bigger is the stake, the more fear you have, or the more excited you are. Think about this as one pillar. Why? Because you may be so scared, it's not enough just to tell you. I also need to help you to kind of at least bring the fear down, to calm yourself, to be able to think. Why it's important? Because if you're very scared, it means your focus is focusing on the fear. So let's say we can have couple of focus points in the same time. You can focus on the audience, you can focus on your slides, you can focus on your delivering the information. You can want to focus, are you doing and ums, and you're very monotone and you're not really changing anything in your pitch and your tone and everybody gonna die because you're so boring, or you're actually talking more animated. So if you part of your speech going to the fear, sorry, not part, focus, you're taking away of the CPU cycles to watch everything else.
Okay.
What can we do? Think about that. When you're scared, when you have some kind of anxiety, usually your heartbeat going higher.
Yep.
Because you're there. What if I can mechanically lower your heartbeat rate and almost force you to relax? Example, breathing. Breathing associated with my heartbeat. Usually people breathe from 12 to 15 breaths per minute. When they're scared and exhausted, or not exhausted, or maybe like running, it's going to 20, 30, even more per minute in some cases. What if we do something simple called box breathing?
Mm-hmm.
Come from Navy SEALs, come from yogis as well. Basically, the idea is that I'm inhale for X amount of seconds, let's say 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5, and repeat the cycle. My breath cycle right now is 20 seconds. Basically, I move from 12, 15 per minute to 3 per minute. Guess what's going to happen with you? If you do box breathing for 2, 3, 4 minutes before you're going on stage, or before you need to jump on a customer very important meeting, your heart rate will drop by 15, by 10, by 20. This is not me. This is science. You can try it yourself. It's worked like a freaking charm.
I'm trying it right now.
Don't try it right now.
Oh.
You want to be by yourself,
You're
okay?
gonna pass out.
Yeah.
You can
No,
see
you
my
don't wanna
face
pass out.
getting red.
No. But you don't have to have 5. You can do it 3.
Yeah.
3, 3, 3. You know, it's still 3, 3, 3. It's still going to be 12. It's still going to be like 5, 6 per minute. It's still much lower. What happened? You're going to move your anxiety and your fear down. It's going to help you to translate this fear and to excitement and actually focus on the other things.
I love that.
So this is one of the frameworks, one of the things you can work with yourself. Guess what? The more you do box, again, box breathing is just one. There's another one called 1 to 2. Inhale for 2, exhale for 4. Inhale for 3, exhale for 6. Same idea. You can do it while you're walking, while you're driving. Please don't close your eyes while you're driving, definitely. And you can, like, I used to go to the washroom, sit in the washroom, just do it like 2, 3 minutes before I present. The more you do it enough in your life, almost like every day, maybe when you're doing something, you can mentally bring this idea to your mind, even while you present. For a second, you almost remember the sensation. Same as you remember maybe the smell of perfume or roses or something that carries you. It will almost create like an anchor to bring you back to be more relaxed and be more in the zone.
Yeah.
To add to this, let's put a cream on top.
Okay.
Guess what? People tell you, oh, you should really not use filler words. Like, it's not very good. But you cannot not use filler words because we use filler words to buy us time to think about what to say. If you pay attention when you relax and you're talking about something you know, you're going to have less filler words. When you are more scared, more things on the go, you're going to have more filler words. So by being more relaxed, you actually helping with the filler words. And the best idea is to replace filler words with pauses.
Silence.
Hi.
That's right.
I'm Evgeniy. I can do blah, blah, blah. But if I allocating part of my CPU that now I took away from fear to watch filler words, I can now do the part as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that people are very uncomfortable with silence, especially when they're the ones doing the speaking. And so,
was it 5 minutes?
No, I wasn't. There was no stopwatch. All right, guys. Well, thank you for sharing that, Evgeniy. I love. Okay, so this is mostly cybersecurity, but we also I like to end these with just some general advice, business tips, how to be better people, better humans, better business owners, or whatever. So, we're moving into. Now I'm noticing all my filler words, by the way. We're moving into a world where we all pretty much have to become public figures. If we, in business, we've talked a lot today about how do we get, transfer to our clients or our prospects, that we're going to take care of them, that we're going to provide them the things that, that they're writing the check for. But in the end, they don't know our language and we don't know theirs. That is a fact. And people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And so if you really want to increase your business, you've got to be liked, you've got to be known, you've got to be trusted. And, so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this. We all have this built-in fear of public speaking, and yet it is becoming a version of survival in the business world. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We will give, I'll go around the room, give everybody, we're going to call it 42 seconds. I will be running a clock to summarize your key takeaways, your final thoughts, final introduction, how to contact you if you want. And then we're going to close this up and be back next week. And I'm going to pick on you, Mario, to go first, then Bryan, then Evgeniy, and then I'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Mario.
I mean, my biggest takeaway is to pretty much set up the prospects, set up the person you're speaking to with more information, make them understand why, your solution is not necessarily better, but why they need it. You have to educate, and the best way to sell something is to educate somebody. That's why a lot of people love social media like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. And, I'm one of those people too. I've worked with vendors that I've seen online. It's just educating. If somebody's educated, you want to work with somebody that knows that they need your service, that they know what is it that they need, what is it they have, and what is it they don't have. So sometimes you got to just, educate somebody, and then one day, they'll come and talk to you and have an intelligent conversation with what you do and what you work, sell.
All right, Bryan.
So my biggest takeaway is, twofold. One, as we're talking to business owners here, I'll speak directly to our business colleagues, and that is, if you are dealing with an IT provider who is not communicating with you in a way that talks about outcomes and business impact, and they're just talking about, cybersecurity and all the things you need to do to your network, and they're talking tech, bring it back to what are the impacts? How is this going to impact me? What kind of results could I see out of this, or what will it prevent? If I'm talking to other IT providers, then stop talking about technology and start talking about the actual impact it has on the consumer or the business's systems, in the sense of, like, what is the business impact versus what is the technical impact, right? If we don't do this change for this server, what is the impact? What could happen? So that's the conversation that I think we all need to start having, is what is the impact it's going to have on your business versus all these technical things we have to do.
Okay. Sounds good. Evgeniy.
I'm going to continue the idea of communication with people. I think we need to learn and explain to people that people all learn and consume information differently.
Yeah.
And this is part of your role as a business owner, to communicate with the people in the ways they understand, in the language they understand. And if it's a visual, if it's an audio, if it's a kinesthetic way they understand, ask them. And how do you ask them? You actually ask them to guide you. So don't be afraid to ask customers to guide you. What's the better way to explain your ideas? And also don't be afraid to guide the customer as well. Mr. Customers, can I guide you? Give me 2-3 minutes. I'll explain you how it's working and where we go, and we can go in a different way. So this is one part that is definitely important. Second part, feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn. Evgeniy Kharam, as you see here, if you're watching the video, if no, Evgeniy Kharam. Please go to softskills.tech if you want to check the book about soft skills and technical sales. A lot of the ideas I discussed today come from the book or into the book, and definitely there's much more. There's also blogs there, and audio book just came out in December as well.
Perfect. Evgeniy, by the way, mostly for the audience, I will have your information linked both on our podcast website, unhacked.live, And then I put a page up for each episode on my own business website, and I will link your information there as well. So listening audience, if you'd like to get a hold of Evgeniy, just go to unhacked.live, pull up this episode, and his contact information will be listed there. Thank you, Evgeniy, for being here. Bryan, Mario, always a pleasure. And, I'm going to sign off with a very simplified framework that I like to use for, if I'm a business owner. And by the way, my takeaway here is introspection. It is why I'm here. It's why I do the podcast, because it does teach me how to be a better business owner and business leader. And if I put myself in the shoes of a prospect, I have no goddamn idea what you guys are talking about. Here are 3 things I want to know. Are you protecting my people? Are you protecting my data? And are you protecting my technology? And if you can simplify it in those terms, then I'm going to understand that at least we're on the right path. Nothing's 100%, so we're going to wrap that up with good policies and procedures and a solid cybersecurity insurance plan. That's the way I would frame this. Guys, again, thank you for being here. We will see you all next week. Take care.